We are talking about triangle congruence postulates, and we're talking about the shortcuts that can help us figure out if triangles are congruent or not. And so we have, there's a review, we talked about side, side, side. And if we write this frontwards or backwards, it's exactly the same. We had side, angle, side. And again, if we write this frontwards or backwards, it's exactly the same. We had angle, side, angle. So right away, four of them, or three of them that we can use. If we write it frontwards or backwards, it's exactly the same. And then another one, we have angle, angle, side, or side, angle, angle. Now, none of these up here are bad words. So these are all ones that we can use, and you can use them in, you could say side, angle, angle, or angle, angle, side, doesn't matter. And then the first three, frontwards or backwards, doesn't matter which way you write them. One that sometimes work is we have the hypotenuse leg has to be a right triangle, and the legs and the hypotenuse has to work out correctly. And then the ones that never work are angle, all angles, doesn't work, can't use it. And then that bad word. So if you can write it as a bad word or it's all vowels, can't use it. We'll get a couple examples. So for the following diagrams, decide if there is enough information to prove the triangles are congruent. If possible, write the triangle congruent statement and write the reason you know the triangles are congruent. So here, there's some given information, but then we also have to rely on some of our past information to decide if there's enough information there or not. So to start with, we have one mark here, that would be a mark for side. We have one mark here, that would be a mark for side. We have two marks here, and we have another mark here. So we have two sides that are given. And then one thing that we can remember is our different properties of congruence. And this one is going to be symmetric. So we can say that WY is congruent to YW. So that will be our third side. So WY is congruent to YW by the symmetric property of congruence. Now it says, write the triangle congruency statement. So sometimes it's a little confusing when we just have these marked, but I'm just going to follow the numbers. So W, so 1, 2, 3. So W to X to Y. So triangle W to X to Y is congruent to triangle. And again, I went 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to do that same thing. 1, 2, 3. So Y, Z, W. All right. Then we can look at B. And here we have, if you guys notice, we have a symbol for a right triangle. So this is 90 degrees. This also has to be 90 degrees because of vertical angles. And vertical angles are congruent. So we have two right triangles. We're given the hypotenuse. So these three marks here mark the hypotenuse. And these three marks here also mark the hypotenuse. And then we're given one leg. So yes, this is congruent by, oh, I forgot to say by, this is congruent by side, side, side. So this triangle over here is congruent by hypotenuse leg, and we're going to do, I'll start with C. So I'm going to go C, then it's going to go 2, 3. So CED. Triangle CED is congruent to triangle C, so 2, 3, CBA. And I just followed the number count that I made for the side. So it went 2, 3, 2, 3. And the reason that we know that those are congruent is by hypotenuse leg. We have some more examples. So again, we don't have the mark for 90 degrees, but here we have two vertical angles. So we know those are congruent. So those are vertical angles. So that's going to be an angle and an angle. This 2 marks here is a side, and this 2 marks is a side. And then this 1 mark here is a side, and this mark is a side. So side, angle, side, side, angle, side. So then this is congruent. And we can say, and we have to go based off of the corresponding parts. So triangle, we can call it ADK. Triangle ADK is congruent to, so AD, so we went from the side that has one, side 1 to the side that has 2. So which one has 1 touching it? S or T? Which one has 1? So T. So triangle TSK. And the reason that we can say that is by side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. Next we look over here, and again we have vertical angles that we should pay attention to. So these are angles that we're going to use, and the reason that we can say that is because those are vertical. Next we have a side and a side, and then we have this mark here, it's the angle. So here we have angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, so that works. So now we just have to name the corresponding parts correctly. So let's go the marked angle, so RTS. So triangle RTS is congruent to UTV, triangle UTV. And the reason that we know that is angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. Next one we're looking at is example E. And here we have, again, we have vertical angles that we have to pay attention to. So those are vertical angles. And we know that those are congruent. So that's going to be angle and angle. Next, we have this set of angles over here. So we have an angle marked here and an angle marked here at T. And then we have one side. And we have one side. So this is angle, angle, side, green, red, blue, green, red, blue, angle, angle, side. So this does work out. So I'm going to go marked angle, non-marked angle. So triangle TSN is congruent to triangle, remember, marked, marked, non-marked. So USH. And the reason that we can say that is angle, angle, side. Next one we're looking at is example F, and we can see that we have a 90-degree angle. So that is an angle there. We have another 90-degree angle. So that is an angle. We have this angle, which is right here. And this angle there. And then we also have the side in between. So we have side, angle, angle. And that does work out. So if we go no marked angle, so KDA, triangle KDA is congruent. So K was not marked in this triangle. So I got to look at which one's not marked here. We got D. So triangle D. So we did K, D. We went to the one mark. So K to the one mark. So D to the one mark. That's back to K. And then P. And the reason that we can say that is angle, angle, side. So angle, angle, well, angle is in green. So angle, angle, and then side was in blue. And the reason that we could say this one in the middle, remember we got KD and DK. So we have KD and DK. So KD is congruent to DK, and that is the symmetric. Now we have example G. So some information that we're given. We're given, again, we have, because we're using the same side in two triangles, that marks that we have one side in both, either by reflexive or symmetric. Not sure exactly which one it is yet. And then we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal. So we know that alternate interior angles are congruent. So that gives us our angle. But from this point on, we don't know enough other information. So this one we don't know. So this is not enough information. So these angles we could say by alternate interior. And then we're not really sure if this would be symmetric or reflexive, but it would be one of those two. But even with those two pieces of information, we still can't prove that those triangles are congruent. Next, we have H. And we have, so here we have a side, and we have another side. We have an angle and another angle. And then we have this side and this side. So it looks like we might have enough information, but let's actually write it down and see. So we have blue S, red A, and then green S. So that was this triangle right here. And then this triangle right here, if we can't start with blue S because blue S is in the middle. So let's start with green S. Actually, let's start with red A. So red A, blue S, green S. So the S's are in the correct place, but then we have the blue S and the red A, and the blue S and the red A are switched. So this does not produce a congruent triangle shortcut because they're not corresponding sides. We've been given the size, but they're not corresponding. Next one we have is I. So here we're given an angle, and we're given an angle, and we're given two more angles right here. And then we're given this side, and this side is by reflexive because it's going to end up being the same side. So we can say if we start with J, which is 1, 2, and then it goes to none. So triangle JUI is congruent to J was with triangle LUI. And then that reflexive part comes in where UI is congruent to UI. So UI is congruent to UI by that reflexive property. Next, we're looking at J. And we are given this angle. And we're given this angle. We are given these corresponding sides. And we're not given, but we should know that this is congruent by reflexive. And that is a side and a side for both triangles. So we have ASS. So ASS. And although ASS does give us those two angles and 4 congruent sides, we can't use that one because that's a bad word. So we can't use that. So this one does not have enough information. Not enough information. Now we're on to our last two examples, K and L. And here we have a right angle and a right angle. So right now we're thinking this is a right triangle, so I should be thinking hypotenuse leg. So we are given the hypotenuse, which is opposite the right angle. So there's a right angle opposite, there's a right angle opposite. And then we are actually given the leg as well. That's our leg. And the reason that we can do that is by the reflexive property. So we can say RT is congruent to RT by the reflexive property. So now we can name our triangle. So we're going to start with the no mark. So SRT, triangle SRT is congruent to triangle URT. And the reason that we can say that is because of the hypotenuse leg. And here's our last example. We have an angle and an angle. Those are marked as congruent because there's only one mark for each of those. And then we have 2 marks here and 2 marks here. So that's another angle and an angle. And then we have the included side. By the reflexive property. So here we can say HK is congruent to HK, and that's by the reflexive property. So we can say that these triangles are congruent. GHK, triangle GHK is congruent to triangle G corresponds with J, so JHK. And the reason that we can say that is because of angle side angle. So angle side angle.